Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the Disgruntled Old Gamer, and today I've got a list for you. Imagine that. It's the top 10 horror video games that need a proper resurrection. These are all my opinions, so if you don't like them, well, tough. All right? And having said that, let's get on with the countdown. At number 10, I've got Friday the 13th for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and let me tell you, this game is a big, fat piece of crap. You're a gamer like me back in the day and you saw the LJN logo, then you knew exactly what you were going to get. A big old steaming turd instead of a video game. And that's what this thing was. It was a big old steaming pile of crap. The game is made even more difficult by the fact that the control scheme was freaking terrible. Who needs a weapon that flies straight when you can get a rock that'll go over their heads every time you use them? You died over and over and over again. I wouldn't say I'm salty about this game, but I've been playing games since the dawn of time, and I have still yet to beat this thing. So why remake this game if it's such crap? Because it's got the potential to be a very good game if put in the right hands. You get a good... Gun Media is not who I'm talking about. I've played that Friday the 13th game, and let me tell you, it's glitch-tastic and crap, and you can go away now. Anyway, getting back to what... I can still freaking see you, okay? Just get out of here. If done in the right manner, like, say, Alien Isolation, this game could be amazing. Imagine an AI Jason that will not stop, that's relentless, and knows everything that you do before you do it. Not you, you pixelated piece of crap. Get out of here. I believe this game could be amazing if done the right way. And if you don't think so, well, just fight me. In at number 9 is The Darkness for the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. This first-person shooter had much better control than the last entry, but we're not going to get into that. The story sees you play as one Jackie Estacado, who is a mafia enforcer, we'll say, and he is killed by his Uncle Paulie on his 21st birthday because, you know, that's what you get. Somebody for their 21st birthday is death. Not gonna lie, story doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. Apparently, your bloodline has this darkness in it, and this darkness ends up resurrecting you. And the darkness in the form of these giant black tendrils with heads that can eat things and chew up things and decapitate things. Basically, you didn't play this game for the story. You played this game because it was bloody, 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 but it was a lot of fun. As you play the game, there's the question of whether you're going to give yourself over to this darkness. Well, I'm here to tell you, at the very beginning, you get the darkness powers and you're going to use them. I mean, why wouldn't you use them? You got the ability to decapitate people and to eat people's hearts. The best thing about the darkness, however, I thought, was that Mike Patton, the lead singer of Faith No More, was the voice of the darkness. And he is over the top and fan-freaking-tastic. I love this game, if for no other reason, because Mike Patton was awesome. This would be a great remake. Let's get it done. In at number 8, I've got Zombies Ate My Neighbors for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System and the Sega Genesis. It was created by LucasArts and published by Konami, and it's a couch co-op game. And for all you youngins out there that don't know what couch co-op is, that's where you play next to somebody so you can't tell them that you're sleeping with their mom, or otherwise they're going to punch you in the freaking nose. You got to play as one of two characters, either Zeke or Julie, and the object of each level was to find all the neighbors in that level and save them from all these over-the-top 50s style monsters. The gameplay itself was just top-down run-and-gun shooting. It brought back memories of games like Akari Warriors and Gauntlet, Super Smash TV, even Jackal. And today you've got Hotline Miami and Enter the Gungeon that are still carrying on those tropes today. This game, if it was redone today, I think would be amazing. To even maybe turn the license over to one of these companies that are still doing these top-down shooters today, I think that'd be a great idea. Or since LucasArts has recently reformed, Why don't they use this as a jumping off point for the next series of titles that they do? Either way, I think this game would be great, and it's definitely worth a shot. And if you haven't played it, you definitely should. In at number 7 is the game Phantasmagoria for the PC. Sierra Studios released this in 1995 to immediate controversy, and that is a subject for another video. You play as a character named Adrian Delaney, along with her husband Don, who's a photographer. They found this old abandoned mansion in New England, and if any horror movie's told you anything, it's don't go into old abandoned mansions. This is a game that's a product of its time. It released on 7 discs. Try not to faint if you've never seen a game with 7 discs before, but we old people, we used to play games with a lot of discs. We didn't get to sit on our ass and play a digital game and not have to move all day. We actually had to get up and put a new disc in, take an old disc out when we were playing a game. But I digress. This game was created in the heyday of the interactive movie craze. Everybody was doing it. It was more along the lines of just a point-and-click puzzle-solving adventure where you, as Adrian, would have to solve all these puzzles to find out why Don was acting strangely. As it turned out, he was being possessed by a demon that had been released in the house by the former owner of the house. The previous owner of the house was a magician who had 5 wives. He killed each one of them off in many different ways. You get to see that throughout the playing of the game. But overall, as silly as this may sound to some people, I think this lends itself really well to a remake. I think this lends itself well to, say, a remake done in the Resident Evil style of today with the first-person creepy atmosphere. I think it would be great to do something like that with this. It's the acting is horrible, but don't let that shy you away. If you get a chance to play this, you should. I think it's a good game. In at number 6, we've got Condemned: Criminal Origins for the Xbox 360. This is an odd one for me because this is one of the games on this list that I really did not enjoy playing at all. Even with my hatred for Friday the 13th for Nintendo, I still enjoyed playing that game. This one just didn't do it for me. But the reason it's on this list is because it has the potential to be a very good game. You play as a crime scene investigator for the FBI who's tracking down a serial killer in a fictional city called Metro City. One of the big problems with this game is that the story itself was kind of non-existent. It was more a product of what it was, which was first-person hack and slash survival horror type thing. You bandy about in the underbelly of this city trying to track this serial killer, and you're getting all kinds of really weird stuff happen to you, and there's a lot of puzzle solving through crime scene investigation. And the serial killer you're looking for is Serial Killer X, which by God is the worst name for a serial killer ever. I really didn't care for the game when I first played it, like I said, but I think it would do very well today with the atmosphere that can be created with a lot of these first-person shooters today, and it has the potential to be a very good game. In at number 5, we've got Legacy of Kain: Blood Omen, 1996 for the original PlayStation. Even though I'm an Xbox guy, this PlayStation game is very near and dear to my heart. I consider this to be one of the best vampire RPGs ever made. Developed by Crystal Dynamics and released by Silicon Knights, this was a definitive vampire RPG. Unfortunately for the two companies, they couldn't get along and they ended up going to court over this thing. Silicon Knights prevailed and they ended up getting the license, and they ended up releasing a ton more games, then action figures, comic books, anything they could stamp Legacy of Kain on. Silicon Knights has went on to become the company that infamously created Too Human. That's a story for another video. Blood Omen itself was a very good game. You got to play as this nobleman who was murdered early on, and he's given the chance to be resurrected by this necromancer who gives him the powers of a vampire to go and seek revenge on his enemies. And let's just say things don't turn out so well for him or for the world itself. The ton of sequels that got released for this thing were crap. I disliked them immensely. The only game in the series that I played more than once was this one, the first one. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It had a Diablo type feel to it, and I'm a big Diablo guy. I would love to see this get rebooted, remade, but knowing that the property is kind of like up in the air court-wise, it'll probably never happen, which kind of sucks. But, you know, as you get older like me, you find out life pretty much sucks. In at number 4, we're in the meat of the countdown now. Tecmo's Deception, 1996, the original PlayStation. In this game, you got to trap NPCs in lots of gloriously over-the-top, horrible ways. I could tell you about the plot, but the plot doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It wasn't really about the story. It was about the fact that you could just take out your frustrations on the NPCs. There was nothing like coming home after a long day of work and sitting down and playing this game and just imagining everybody that just upset you and how you were going to just put them in an electrified cage or drop them in a spike pit or drop an iron ball on their head. This game I love so much. The game may not look very good by today's standards. You don't got your 4K, you don't got your 60 frames per second, but what you do got is a damn good time waster where you got to just take out every frustration you could think of on the computer. This game spawned like 4 sequels. I played a couple of them. I didn't even bother to put graphics up for this one because the games are god-awful horrible. I hated them. This was the only one of the series that I actually enjoyed, and I would love to see somebody reboot this one because I think it would just be awesome today. I'd love to see this done as a reboot. You don't really see the whole trap style game play anymore. I mean, there's the Saw games, but that's like totally different. It's more of a survival horror. This, you actually are in control. You have the schematic of the house, you have the schematics of the traps, you get to put them where you want to, and then you just get to torture the hell out of the NPCs. And, you know, I could care less if it's a multiplayer game. I'm not a big multiplayer guy, as I've said 100 times. This is a single player game, and it's one that you can just have a blast playing. So somebody, remake this game. In at number 3, we've got Dead Space. For the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, this was released in 2008 by Visceral Games Studios and published by EA. In my opinion, this is one of the greatest horror video games ever made. The story was engaging, the combat was fun, the atmosphere was freaky as hell. This had it all. Unfortunately, what it also had was Electronic Arts. Dead Space was originally developed by Visceral Studios, and if Visceral Studios had been able to keep control of the game, maybe it would still be a game today. Unfortunately, this wouldn't be the case for Visceral, and EA would take 100% control, and then in 2017, they shuttered Visceral entirely. Electronic Arts ended up getting their way in the end. They shuttered Visceral Studios, and then they ran this whole series into the ground. By Dead Space 3, Electronic Arts had tried to shoehorn multiplayer in. They'd completely forgotten what the game was about, and it just became a big smoldering pile of crap by that point. Again, this crap falls under the fact that EA has this license. They're not going to let anybody else do it. They're just going to continue to try to milk money off of it. If it comes back, it's probably going to be crap. Gold monkeys will fly out my ass before we'll get another good Dead Space game. In at number 2, we've got Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, for the Nintendo GameCube, released in 2002 by Silicon Knights. And this time, they didn't fudge everything up. This had it all. Lovecraftian horror, Egyptian horror, psychological horror, you named it, there was horror. This may be the greatest horror game ever made for the Nintendo GameCube. The game plays out in like 4 different time periods, and you're constantly time jumping back and forth between those time periods. But what made this game so cool was the fact that you had what they called a sanity meter. And the more stuff you saw and the scarier you got, the worse your sanity got. And then things would start happening to your game. The game would abruptly end, telling you that the game was over, and then you had to wait for the sequel, Sanity's Redemption, to come out. The controls would flip entirely, or the camera angles would turn over on their side, making it impossible to move around without getting killed. But what had to be the best ones of all were the ones that told you that the system had crashed or that you'd lost your memory off your memory card. It was crazy. This was one of the most original ideas for a horror game in video game history. Not only were you playing the game, but the game was basically playing you. By the time everything was said and done, you had no idea what to expect, and that's what made this game so great. Not many horror games can subvert your expectations and then put you on edge the way this game did. Was Sanity's Requiem one of the scariest games ever made? Probably not. Was it one of the best games that's ever been made? You better frickin' believe it. And finally, in at number 1 on the countdown is Fatal Frame for the Xbox, PlayStation 2, and Nintendo Wii. What if I told you I was going to drop you into an abandoned mansion in the mountains of Japan in the middle of the night? And then what if I told you that this mansion was going to be filled with many, many ghosts that want to off you in as many horrible ways as possible? Then finally I told you that your only weapon was going to be a camera. That, my friends, is Fatal Frame in a nutshell. You're playing as a young girl who's looking for her brother who has disappeared after a college trip to this mansion. Along the way, you're going to find the camera obscura. That's going to be your main weapon throughout the game. This is no ordinary camera. The camera obscura does damage to these ghosts when you take their picture. Unfortunately, that is how you're going to be battling all these ghosts in this game, and it gives you a really claustrophobic feel when you have to look down the viewfinder, meanwhile trying to move around and outmaneuver these ghosts that want to kill you. I have played many horror games in my life. I have also played many Japanese style games, but this is the only game that I've ever played that was like this. Some of you out there are going to say, well, what about Outlast and what about this, what without? Okay, first off, this is not Outlast, okay? Outlast wishes that it could be this game. After I played this game once, I was hooked. If you love horror video games, then you owe it to yourself to play Fatal Frame. You will not regret the experience, other than the fact you'll probably have to change your undershorts. This game needs a reboot. It needs a remake. It needs to happen now. Please, please remake this game. And ladies and gentle people, there you have it. The top 10 list of horror video games that I think need a proper resurrection. So, was there anything that I left off this list that should have been added? Do you disagree with my picks? If so, leave me a comment down below. If you liked the video, by all means, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed already, do that too, because I'm releasing new content all the time, gameplay videos, walkthrough videos, just ranting about video games, the whole deal. Oh, one more thing before I go. Just like to say thank you so much for watching the video. And don't forget to love yourself, because nobody else is going to do it.